is a country where you can wake up in an old town that is over 800 years old, and shortly after have lunch beside multi-million-dollar superyachts. A place where shepherds live in remote mountain huts while the rest work online right by the Adriatic coast. You can spend the morning beneath Mediterranean sunshine, but a few hours reach snow-covered the Black Mountains. Centuries-old monasteries still cling to sheer cliffs, but luxury resorts occupy centuries-old fishing villages. Here, the past never completely disappeared, but the future didn't wait for it to leave. This is Montenegro, one of Europe's smallest countries, where traveling a few hours can feel like traveling 2 centuries. How can 2 completely different ways of life survive this close together? Come with me and subscribe to Beyond Travel, because today we're crossing an entire country, climbing into the Black Mountains, and traveling through 2 centuries before sunset. The first place to understand Montenegro is Kotor, where the mountains rise almost directly from the Bay of Kotor, and an entire stone town sits compressed between the water and the cliffs. Enter through the sea gate, and the modern road disappears behind you. Inside, Kotor becomes a maze of narrow stone alleys, stairways, courtyards, and tiny squares surrounded by 8 centuries-old buildings. Some passages are so irregular that trying to follow a straight route is almost pointless. Turn one corner expecting another street, and you may find a church. Turn another, and a small square suddenly opens between stone facades. Getting slightly lost is part of the experience. Above it all, Kotor's fortifications climb dramatically up the mountainside towards San Giovanni Fortress. At street level stands the Cathedral of St. Tryphon, originally consecrated in 1166. Nearby, Venetian-era palaces, Orthodox churches, old merchant houses, and weathered balconies reveal how much history was squeezed into this small fortified town. But here's where Kotor becomes more interesting than a beautiful medieval monument. Many of these old buildings are still being used. Behind heavy stone walls and 8 centuries-old facades, you'll find renovated apartments, boutique accommodation, cafes, and restaurants fitted with modern interiors. Some historic properties have been carefully transformed into elegant places to stay, while preserving exposed stone, wooden shutters, old staircases, and architectural details inherited from earlier centuries. It makes modern life fit inside them. Stone stairways disappear between buildings. Cats sleep beneath tables and in quiet corners, so common here that they have become one of Kotor's unofficial symbols. Centuries ago, Kotor was a bustling trading port. Cats from across the globe arrived on merchant ships to hunt rats and protect food supplies. When the ships departed, the cats remained. History recounts that when epidemics, such as the plague, swept through Europe, it was these very cats that saved the people of Kotor from disaster by thoroughly eliminating disease-carrying rats. Today, the residents of Kotor are grateful to the cats, regarding them as symbols of good fortune and prosperity. The cats roam freely, lounging on the steps of ancient churches, at restaurants, or amidst historic palaces. There is even a dedicated cat museum and souvenir shops centered entirely around them. You will encounter a delightful paradox. Humans built this 1,000-year-old city, yet it is the cats that truly enjoy and rule over it. After an hour here, you may begin wondering who the town actually belongs to. But don't rush through Kotor simply collecting landmarks. Climb above the rooftops, stop in one of its squares, or explore the quieter alleys away from the busiest groups. The attraction is the combination. Mountains above you, the bay just beyond the gate, fortified walls overhead, and centuries of Adriatic history compressed into a place small enough to explore on foot. Would you follow a map through these streets, or put it away and see where the next alley takes you? Because Kotor gives us one answer to the question we began with. Old Montenegro survives by continuing to be used, adapted, and lived in rather than simply preserved behind glass. But that explains only one side of the country. Leave these stone walls and travel a short distance around the bay, and another Montenegro appears. Polished waterfronts, luxury residences, designer boutiques, and superyachts worth millions. You don't need another day to find it. You may not even need another hour. From Kotor, you don't need to travel far to watch Montenegro change centuries. Follow the Bay of Kotor toward Tivat, and roughly 15 kilometers away, the stone maze gives way to Porto Montenegro. Contrast is immediate. Luxury residences, international restaurants, boutiques, and a marina designed to accommodate some of the world's largest superyachts. Porto Montenegro was developed on the site of a former naval facility and transformed into one of the Adriatic's best-known luxury marina destinations. Yachts worth millions can sit only a short drive from a city, and that distance matters. In many countries, traveling between these two worlds might require crossing a region. Here, you can explore Kotor's old streets in the morning and be sitting beside superyachts in Tivat before lunch. We're built around tourism, leisure, and global wealth, far beyond this tiny Balkan country. But here's where the journey becomes more interesting. Don't stay on the coast. From Tivat and Kotor, head upward toward Lubchin and the village of Njeguši, and Montenegro changes again. The marina falls away below. The road climbs through steep limestone mountains. The bay begins to look almost unreal, blue water twisting between enormous gray peaks. By the time you reach Njeguši, the atmosphere has little in common with Porto Montenegro. This mountain village is famous throughout the country for Njeguški prosciutto, a cured and smoked ham whose local production. Here, slabs of meat are traditionally salted, smoked, and dried in the mountain air. Local cheese is another specialty, often served alongside prosciutto, bread, olives, and a glass of rakija. Food tells you something about the place. Before refrigeration, mountain communities needed ways to preserve meat through long periods. What began as necessity became tradition, and what survived as tradition is now something travelers specifically come here to taste. Stop at a local smokehouse or family restaurant, and you may find dark rooms filled with rows of prosciutto hanging overhead, a very different image from the polished marina you left behind. And this is where the title of our journey stops sounding like an exaggeration. Subscribe to Beyond Travel and join us in exploring this journey. Morning inside the walls of medieval Kotor, lunch beside super yachts in Tivat, afternoon eating food still prepared through generations-old traditions in Njeguši, all within a remarkably small corner of Montenegro. Which version would you choose if you had only one day? The medieval town, the luxury marina, or the mountain village? I wouldn't choose yet, because we have only covered the first leg of the journey. And if this much can change around one bay, imagine what happens when we follow that water deeper into the mountains, toward Perast and one of the Adriatic's most extraordinary coastal landscapes. Leave Njeguši behind and return toward the water. because the landscape surrounding Kotor deserves a journey of its own. The Bay of Kotor is often compared with the fjords of Norway. Geologically, it isn't a true fjord, but from the water, comparison is easy to understand. Steep limestone mountains rise almost directly from the Adriatic, enclosing long fingers of blue water and small stone settlements along the shoreline. In places, there seems to be barely enough flat land for a road between the mountain and the sea. And hidden inside this landscape is Parast. Parast is tiny, but during the Venetian period it became an important maritime town. Its waterfront is still lined with stone houses, churches, and former palaces built by families whose wealth was connected to the sea. There are no giant modern boulevards cutting through the old center. Pleasure here is much simpler. Walk beside the water, stop beneath the stone facade, and look across the bay, because just offshore are two small islands that make Parast immediately recognizable. One is St. George, occupied by an old Benedictine monastery and shaded by cypress trees. The other is much stranger. Our Lady of the Rocks was made by people, according to local tradition, after an icon of the Virgin and Child was discovered on a rock in the bay. Sailors began placing stones at the site. Over generations, rocks and old ships loaded with stones helped create an artificial island where the Church of Our Lady of the Rocks now stands. But the remarkable part is that the story hasn't simply ended. Every year on July 22nd, locals take part in Fascinata, traveling by decorated boats from Parast and dropping stones into the water around the island. A tradition connected to sailors centuries ago still physically adds to the place today. Think about that for a moment. Most historic monuments ask visitors not to touch anything. Here, a centuries-old tradition asks people to bring another rock, and this helps answer our larger question about Montenegro. Old customs survive more easily when they still have a purpose. In Parast, maritime history isn't confined to plaques on old buildings. It returns to the water every summer. If you visit, one of the best ways to understand the bay is from a boat from the middle of the water. Parast becomes a narrow strip of stone beneath enormous mountains, while the two islands appear almost impossibly small against the landscape, because this calm Adriatic world doesn't last for long. Keep traveling north through Montenegro, and the stone coastal towns begin to disappear. Palm trees give way to forests. The temperature drops. The mountains become higher, rougher, and wilder. Within a few hours, the country that looked Mediterranean begins to look almost alpine. Next, we're heading into Durmitor, where Montenegro changes worlds again. A few hours north of the Bay of Kotor, Montenegro changes again. The stone towns, calm Adriatic water, and Mediterranean vegetation begin to disappear. Roads climb through forests and high plateaus until you reach Zabjak, the mountain town that serves as the main gateway to Durmitor National Park. Now the country you saw around Kotor feels surprisingly far away. Durmitor is a landscape of limestone peaks, pine forests, deep valleys, and glacial lakes. More than 40 peaks rise above 2,000 meters, with Bobatov Kuk reaching 23 meters. Winters can bury this region in snow, while summer turns it into one of Montenegro's great hiking destinations. And one of the easiest places to understand the change is Sierreno Jezero, Black Lake, surrounded by dense forest beneath the peaks of Durmitor. The lake is actually formed by two connected bodies of water. In spring, when snowmelt raises the water level, they can merge more completely. Later in the year, the connection can shrink dramatically. Walking the forest trail around Black Lake feels nothing like the Adriatic Montenegro we left only hours earlier. Travel farther into the surrounding highlands during summer, and you may encounter catons, seasonal mountain settlements traditionally used by pastoral families who bring livestock to higher pastures. Sheep and cattle graze across open meadows. Simple mountain buildings replace coastal stone palaces, and dairy products are still closely tied to this seasonal way of life. This is where foods such as kajmak, a type of condensed milk cream, and mountain cheeses make much more sense. Before supermarkets and paved roads reached every corner of the country, families had to make practical use of what the mountains provided. Milk became cheese, cream became kajmak, and livestock became both food and livelihood. Some of these traditions continue today, even as tourism creates new opportunities. Travelers can now stay in mountain cabins, eat locally produced food, hike through landscapes once used mainly by shepherds, and experience a way of life that has adapted rather than simply disappeared. Remember where we started our journey this morning, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. 8th-century-old Kotor, million-dollar yachts in Tivat, prosciutto in Yagushi, Venetian palaces in Perast, and now shepherds are moving livestock through high mountain pastures beneath Durmitor. The distances are short, but the lifestyles can feel generations apart. Because if Durmitor feels wild from the surface, wait until you see what the landscape does next. Beyond these peaks, the Tara River has carved a canyon more than a kilometer deep in places. A bridge hangs high above it. Rafting boats disappear into the gorge below, and some of Montenegro's most dramatic wilderness begins where the road seems to run out. We're going down into Tara Canyon next. From Durmitor, the landscape doesn't become gentler. It breaks open. The Tara River cuts through northern Montenegro in a canyon that reaches roughly 1,300 meters deep in places, with forested cliffs and limestone walls dropping toward water far below. Much of this landscape lies within the wider Durmitor region, recognized by UNESCO, and the river remains one of the great natural features of the Balkans. One of the best places to grasp its scale is the Durmitor Tara Bridge. Concrete arches stretch high above the canyon, with the Tara flowing roughly 170 meters below. Walk onto the bridge and the view opens in both directions. Mountains, dense forest, and a thin turquoise river disappearing through the gorge. But looking down is only one way to experience Tara. The other is to get into the water. Rafting is one of northern Montenegro's signature adventures, particularly when snowmelt strengthens the river in spring and early summer. Boats move through rapids, beneath cliffs, and past stretches of forest, where roads and buildings can disappear almost completely from view. In calmer sections, the Tara can become remarkably clear, revealing stones beneath the surface. Travel south again, and you'll reach a place where people have been climbing into the mountains for an entirely different reason. High above the Zeta Valley, a white building appears almost embedded inside a sheer rock face. It isn't a hotel. It isn't a fortress. It is Ostrog Monastery, one of the most extraordinary religious sites in the Balkans. And to reach it, thousands of pilgrims still make the journey up the mountain every year. Ostrog Monastery looks almost impossible from below. It built directly into a sheer cliff, hundreds of meters above the Zeta Valley, as though part of the mountain had been carved away to make room for it. Founded in the 17th century and associated with St. Basil of Ostrog, the monastery is one of Montenegro's most important Orthodox pilgrimage sites. Step inside. Religious icons, candles, and spaces cut directly into the rock. Ostrog isn't remarkable simply because someone managed to build here. More than 3 centuries later, it remains a functioning religious site, and less than 2 hours away. Another old relationship continues, not with the mountains, but with water. Lake Kotor spreads across the border between Montenegro and Albania, surrounded by wetlands, mountains, small settlements, vineyards, and fishing communities. It is the largest lake in the Balkans and one of Montenegro's richest wildlife areas. Look carefully, and you may even see one of Lake Kotor's most famous residents, the Dalmatian pelican, one of the world's largest freshwater birds. Carp and bleak are traditional catches, appearing smoked, grilled, or served in local dishes. The surrounding Krenica region is also closely associated with Vranac, Montenegro's best-known red grape variety. Small wineries around the lake offer another side of the country that feels far removed from both Porto Montenegro's superyachts and Durmitor's mountain pastures. This is becoming a pattern. Kotor preserved its old buildings by continuing to use them. Negushi kept traditional food alive by continuing to make it. Ostrog remains important because pilgrims still come. Around Lake Kotor, fishing and wine traditions remain connected to the landscape that created them. Past survives because it still has a job to do. If these are the places you enjoy discovering, not simply famous landmarks, but the lives behind them, stay with Beyond Travel. Montenegro still has one of its greatest contradictions waiting on the coast, because farther south stands a tiny fortified island settlement that began with fishermen centuries ago. Today, the same stone houses became associated with one of the Adriatic's most exclusive luxury destinations. Next is Sveti Stefan, where old Montenegro didn't disappear, it became luxury. Follow the Adriatic coast south, and Montenegro produces perhaps its clearest collision between 2 centuries. Sveti Stefan sits on a tiny rocky islet connected to the mainland by a narrow causeway. From above, it looks almost unreal. Terracotta roofs packed tightly together, stone houses rising directly above the sea, and turquoise water surrounding the settlement on both sides. But this wasn't created as a luxury retreat. Sveti Stefan developed centuries ago as a fortified settlement associated with the Pastrovici communities of this coast. Behind its walls were modest stone houses, narrow lanes, churches, and families whose lives were closely connected to fishing, agriculture, and the Adriatic. Then its purpose changed dramatically. During the 20th century, the old settlement was transformed into a hotel complex. The exterior character was largely preserved: stone walls, tiled roofs, narrow passages. But behind those historic facades appeared suites and high-end hospitality. Over the decades, Sveti Stefan became associated with wealthy and famous visitors, turning a former coastal settlement into one of Montenegro's most recognizable luxury icons. And there is the contradiction. The buildings survived, but the life inside them changed. That makes Sveti Stefan very different from Kotor. In Kotor, centuries-old buildings continue as part of a living town. At Sveti Stefan, much of the historic settlement was repurposed around exclusive tourism. Both preserved the physical past, but they did it in very different ways. Even the view captures Montenegro's entire story remarkably well. Look toward the island, and you see centuries-old stone architecture. Turn toward the mainland, and the Budva Riviera stretches along a coast shaped increasingly by beaches, hotels, apartments, restaurants, and international tourism. Old Montenegro has become one of the things new Montenegro sells best: and tourism has brought enormous value to places like this. Historic architecture becomes economically valuable. Old buildings can be restored. Restaurants, accommodation, guides, and coastal businesses create jobs. But it also raises an uncomfortable question. When people travel here because a place feels old and authentic, how much can that place change before the thing they came to see begins to disappear? Would you rather stay inside a centuries-old settlement transformed into luxury, or visit a less polished village where everyday life has changed far less? Sveti Stefan brings us almost back to where this journey began. Kotor showed us the past continuing to function inside modern life. Porto Montenegro showed us how quickly the new world can arrive. Njeguši, Ostrog, Durmitor, and Lake Skadar showed us traditions that remain connected to food, faith, work, and geography. But Sveti Stefan shows something more complicated. Sometimes the past survives because modern Montenegro finds a new use for it. And that may be the greatest challenge facing this country, because Montenegro can still give you 2 centuries in a single day. The real question is whether it will still be able to do that 50 years from now. Montenegro may be small enough to cross in a day, but understanding it takes much longer. Here, an 800-year-old town can share the same coastline with superyachts, while mountain families, fishermen, winemakers, and pilgrims continue traditions shaped generations ago. Perhaps that's the answer to the question we started with. Montenegro's 2 worlds survived because the old one was never completely abandoned. It is still lived and cooked, celebrated, adapted, and sometimes transformed by the new. Question is how long that balance can last. If you could spend 1 week here, where would you go first? Kotor, Durmitor, Lake Skadar, or the Adriatic coast? Tell me in the comments. And if traveling through 2 centuries in 1 day sounds like your kind of adventure, subscribe to Beyond Travel. I'll see you on the next journey.